Hey, I think I'm live now. I want to welcome everyone tonight to the show. Good to have you here. If you're not here live, I hope you can see it at another time. My name's Eddie Grassi. I'm a life coach in San Francisco. It's kind of cold out here these days, even though the sun's out. But my topic tonight is on how to silence that inner critic, that inner self-critic, to build confidence. Now, you may not be familiar with that terminology, inner self-critic, but believe me, you have one. We all do. It goes by different names, but this is the popular psychology one. So the inner self-critic is something that is within all of us. It's very judgmental. It's not very compassionate to yourself. It's a strong voice, and it can be overpowering. So it usually can arise when you're faced with something challenging. You may need to speak to someone sternly. You may need to get in front of an audience. You may need to share something personal. Whatever it is, it could be a performance task, a test, a presentation of some kind, or a sport. Whatever it is, it tends to come up and arise when all of us, we kind of get the jitters, but it's more than just that. So I don't want to just make it sound like it's just the jitters. This is about actually, in some people, unfortunately, paralyzing type of fear of failure. And I think all can, recognize that, have been through that before. But this video in particular is more about the kind of chronic lack of confidence that many of us experience. Starting from an early age for some of us. Some of us, it happened in adulthood, but it seemed to gain some foothold on us, and it comes up, and sometimes we don't know when it's going to come up. We feel unprepared, and even that sense of anxiety and uncertainty about doing things that are outside our comfort zone can produce this inner critic voice that comes up, which is telling you a lot of different things. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, or maybe the worst, nobody cares, right, what I have to say. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Okay, welcome again. This is just the second talk, I believe, on confidence, but I'm sure I'll have some more. Previous to that, we talked about anxiety at the very beginning, and then after that we talked a little bit about gratitude. So all of these things, the gratitude, the anxiety, confidence, all of these things work with mindfulness. Mindfulness is sort of the antidote. So mindfulness being this idea of being present as much as possible in the present moment. So having complete awareness in the present is a way to step away from and witness these challenging emotions in a way that is neutral, almost like watching, a sport and you're close to the field, or watching a show and you're in the safety of your living room, but it can feel like you're right there, but the mindfulness gives you that separation, kind of gives you this different perspective, which in a way handles this, stream of anxiety or the inner critic voice. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about that. And then tonight, I also have some slides actually I'm going to try to share. So let me go to my screen here, put together a few slides to share about this. So the first question is, to me, what does your seed of confidence need to grow? Okay, if you imagine your confidence as a seed, like a plant, it needs certain things to grow, and it needs other things to not be around. So, of course, plants need soil, they need water, they need sunshine. So what are the conditions that are really ripe for our confidence to kind of take place, take root in ourselves, and then continue to thrive and grow and spread so that it grows into a healthy type of inner trait within us? So there's a lot of things we can do. As I put this out there, I think maybe there might be some people who go to the other question, which is, well, where do I even get the seed? Okay. But the thing is, all of us have an inner critic, but we also have an inner nurturer. Okay. So the inner nurturer has to be around and has to be developed. And that's a part of us, a built-in kind of part of us to keep us, to help us survive and stay healthy. You know, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to nurture ourselves. So I don't believe that there is no seed. I believe everyone has a seed. It may be dormant, latent, and maybe almost seem, inaccessible at times. Like it's not me. I'm not one of the people who has confidence. I don't have that seed that you're talking about. That's defensiveness, and that is another area we're going to talk about. But that is, again, resistance to change also, because when we talk about confidence, that self-critic is already saying, hold on, okay, you've gone far enough. You don't even have a seed. Let's not talk about growing anything right now. You don't have a seed to begin with. So anyway, I want you to think of this sprout as you representing your growth. So when I talk about the inner critic is like a whole bunch of different things. And in this graphic here, I hope you can see it okay. Really, it's a struggle to me for your attention. See, the inner critic is this voice of negativity that gets a lot of energy and fuel from controlling the way you behave. So it's really, to me, a fight for your attention. And it wants to steal you away from making progress. But it's doing this because it thinks that you won't survive if you get put into a situation that is one that you can fail in or that you can grow in. It thinks, it gets a little scared. So there's a little bit of a basis for it. It's not as if we just were born with this terrible thing. The thing is that the thing I'm speaking of is something called a negativity bias, which has been around with us since the very beginning of human existence. We had to have a mechanism in us that would alert us and keep us very attentive and aware of our surroundings in order to survive. Because back in those days, right, the caveman, cavewoman days, we don't know what was lurking behind us. It could have been a saber-toothed tiger or something else, another opposing tribe that was trying to take over our territory. So as a consequence, we are always, at that time, we had to have this brain that was always shifting our attention and looking over our shoulder. We could never really relax too much sometimes, because if we did, it could mean our ultimate demise, right? So that did stay with us. But another thing I want to say about this is that these days, it's not so much about like looking over your shoulder because, there's going to be a wolf or something. It's not like that anymore. But it's actually kind of more challenging, because these days what we have is like this social survival. So we're always thinking, oh, okay, I didn't get a response, back yet from that text or email. So it becomes more a concern of surviving this social world, avoiding shame, making sure other people are holding you in good, opinion. It could be about that kind of thing, or maybe you said a word to someone and they didn't really respond the right way, or they didn't look at you the right way. And so it's a lot of this energy to keep our social skills alive, to have us be accepted and feel accepted by others. So it's kind of changed from being this constant, I have to look over my back or I might get literally stabbed or bitten, to now where we are constantly feeling as though we have to measure up by our existence with other people with whom we're in competition, or we feel we're in competition. It's part of our culture too, as well. So it's cultural. But I hope I made that part clear. You can see in the graphic, this person is a man and a woman. Their brain is just on overload. The other thing about the inner critic is that you may not recognize it because it's been the fault for so long. It's just been there. You're kind of like, oh yeah, well that's just how it is, you know. And then might say, it might to you that you may not even hear. They're unconscious, which is, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Why should I try? Where is this gonna get me? You're always just you're never gonna be like that person or that guy or that woman or that girl or that boy. So that inner critic is on an on switch. So we have to figure out, how do we turn off that switch? How do we figure out a way so that we can silence it and maybe even turn it off at times? That's possible. So I think I said enough about the negative bias, also the inner critic within us. The other thing is that, past experiences, of course, where you have failed or where others have made you feel unsuccessful or unworthy or unloved, or it could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be your boss at work, it could be a parent, it could be just anyone. And we over-identify with these words and these rejections and these demoralizing comments to the point that we are so over-identified with them, it becomes more of now who we are. Like, these thoughts carry the energy to actually make us feel that this is actually who we are. So past negative experiences can also include just, not doing well on a performance task. It might be you didn't do well on the road one day and, you had an accident and, now you have that memory. Or it could be just something very different that, you just didn't do something in somebody else's eyes and you felt criticized for it. And maybe that criticism to you felt unjustified, or it just kind of already piled on top of something else, so that the negative is mixed. The negative past experiences plus the inner critic, okay, it just gains lots more for the inner critic. It just becomes strong or stronger. And then you have a negativity bias. You got to remember, there's a lot of stuff going on that is going to control your attention and fight for that attention. Present day experiences, you can have things that are happening even right now. So it's not as if this is all associated with past. We can actively have things that are also reinforcing feelings of self-doubt, disbelief, and discouraging hopes and dreams that we have, and we kind of don't even know. Sometimes, like, we barely get out, we can hardly get off the platform and launch because we're so pulled down by, like, the gravity of our self-doubts and our discouraging beliefs that have come to be sort of part of who we are, our psyche, that we just can't sometimes feel we're just trapped in this inertia that we can never escape. So that also can come across as an attitude, which I think is very common around people who have this, is that they don't get inspired. They seem to be flat, a little unmotivated at times, and you wonder why. And I hope this gives you a little bit of compassion for them. Also, moralistic self-condemnation. We do some things to ourselves that only make things worse. We compound the inner critic from the external people around our world, and then we actually develop this inner critic, which is a separate force going on inside of us, and that's another whole thing. This is an internal kind of thing happening outside. So I just want to make sure I understand this is clear, that the external things that happen on the outside responsible make us feel a certain way inside, but then we also have the things that nothing's happening right now externally. We're fine, we're safe, but are we? If we have really this condemnation going on and we are listening to the doubts, listening to the nays and the voice that tells us we can't. So as you can see, it can be very, very confusing, and our control of our attention ultimately comes to power of altitude without any reach, like the power to change it. It seems that way. I want to talk here about some hopeful things. Saving some time for a nice meditation practice at the end. So if you're watching this, I will get to that. One of the things that we're trying to do when we decrease these types of negative thoughts, the self-critic and so forth, is we have to learn a way of stepping away from it to know that it's our thoughts and not who we really are. So I don't know. The image to me of sunflowers is a beautiful one here. And we have to be able to see these bright spots in our life that we're just more than our thoughts. We may associate with them, but we have to somehow come to this accepting idea that even though we may have these thoughts, we are not those thoughts. Now that's fine. And, we can tell people, I can coach and counsel forever on this. And I think there would be some growth if people can do it. But where are the steps, right? Where's the manual? And we don't learn this kind of stuff in school. We just kind of say, hey, stop the negative attitude. And it's like, really? How are you going to do that? It sounds so easy, right? Or, open your eyes, it's a beautiful day, to someone who may be suffering within and we have no idea. But the idea is to somehow step back from it. So I'm going to get into that for a minute, okay? And my next slide. My next slide here this is to me kind of the answer here. It's this idea of getting in touch with our inner nurturer that I mentioned earlier at the start. And our inner nurturer is like this knight on this side, and it is jousting for control, and it wants to kind of be more manifested than this inner self-critic. Again, the inner self-critic internalizes experiences resulting from poor or bad past experiences from outside, people, as I mentioned before, the list down here. And we start to believe this because these comments are so hurtful. And if we don't have another person or people within our lives to counteract that, then we don't get we have a lot of trouble summoning an inner self-nurturer because it's been so neglected since because of the other experiences, the negative ones. So the idea here is we have to begin now. Okay, it's never too late. We have to begin now, today, tonight, tomorrow, to start internalizing experiences that are positive around us. Okay, that's the key. Okay, this is the absolute key. We have to start practicing being more aware and catching onto and holding and reflecting on and meditating on and being aware about positive things that are happening in the present moment. Okay, so that you can counteract and fight off and stem the tide of this inner self-critic. Okay, so it is a battle, but the more we can do these other parts and practices with noticing good things around us, I'm going to talk more specifically, but doing these other offsetting things, we can begin to see a change and shift so that maybe the more dominant hand here is this jouster that holds the key to us being more confident because of the new story that is overlaying the one that has been part of our psyche for so long. It's been so entrenched and so engendered. It's like a fairy tale, a bad fairy tale, but it's we believe it. Okay, so how do we untangle ourselves? How do we do this? Well, what if we haven't had? We can't find. Someone might say, well, what if I don't have too many people in my world today, even right now, that I can think of that are positive about me, or that think I am a good person, or that don't criticize me? What if I don't have that? Well, in my next slide here, I would just say, try not to worry, because there is a pathway to achieving victory. We need to actually seek out the people then. This is my first thought. If we're not surrounding ourselves with the kind of people that are supportive, helpful, optimistic, about the future and about your potential, then you know what? You shouldn't be around them, or you should try to minimize as much as possible being around those kind of people. Okay. I mean, it just makes common sense. The other thing is that even if when we start to get more aware of positive things happening around us, we actually have to do something with those experiences. It's not like, oh, if you noticed a beautiful hummingbird for a few seconds, that suddenly that positive experience now has the same amount of intensity as does a negative experience. It's that the negative experience brings all this other stuff up in us, like the release of cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, other of these really anxiety kind of provoking hormones. And just think about it. When those experiences happen, okay, when you have a stressful experience or one that makes you feel on edge or nervous, you're doubting your ability, remember that your body is bringing up all these things to cement that experience, that negative experience in you, so you will survive, right? Because that's the old thing, that old brain bringing it up. So guess what we have to overcome? I know it sounds like a mountain of terrible things, but we got to overcome this by doing something that shapes new behavior through an experience that is as deep and as powerful as a negative experience does to imprint on you, right? So luckily we're not going to have adrenaline and all this stuff come up with us when we have a positive thing. So, but on the other hand, if we're lacking those chemicals that really, wire your brain to make you feel on edge or lacking confidence because you got to survive, you need to do something just as strong and, significant as that and as intense as that. So I'm going to lead one in going on right now. The last thing I'm just going to say is this is all about challenging the inner critic. Make a choice to disidentify yourself from the negative. When a thought comes up, if you're able to see it through doing some meditative work and mindfulness, which I help teach, if you're able to see that thought come up, you want to say, I doubt you. You want to say, I doubt the credibility of you, or at the very least, say something like, well, maybe there's a tiny grain of truth in there, but most of the 99 other percent is absolutely not true about me. Start to question and assume the assumptions, and you'll start to see that the hold and grip that these negative thoughts of this inner self-critic, some begin to deflate. Okay, so I just want to say that you have to start to question these things a bit more, but you got to be paying attention to it. It's not like I'm going to let this go and let this go. You have to kind of stop it in its tracks and say, wait a second, I'm not going to go down that road as far as that experience has led me down before, that self-limiting thought. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I want to try to do an experience now, a meditation type of mindfulness practice. And I'm going to unshare my screen here and go back to just me. So in this experience, or in this practice, which I'm going to teach right now, I'm just going to go through with it, tell you a little bit about it. The goal here is to know that you are a good person. All right, that's essentially your nature. You are actually a really good person in spite of what you may think sometimes about yourself, or in spite of what you mostly think about yourself. In this exercise, we use it's meditation and it's also mindfulness, but it's also really like hardcore logic. This is what I really like about it, because the mind really kind of likes logic too. So here it is. If you want to just, I don't know, relax, collect yourself. We want to close your eyes a bit. So know you're a good person. This is how it works. I'd like you to actually try this at home now and do it with me. But you want to start by thinking, this is similar to last week, of someone you know, okay, who is basically a good person, right? They're not perfect, but someone you know who is a good person. Probably most of the people in your life. They don't need to be a saint. They're going to make mistakes, but just someone with a good core. They're decent, right? And they're caring. Think about someone else you consider to be basically good person, just another person. So you got your first person. You can imagine what they look like. You picturing that person? You got them? All right. And now you got this other person that you've just conjured up, who is another good person. Just try to notice how often you see good quality in others. Okay, this is part of the exercise here. You're probably pretty good at it. I suspect. Okay, you're probably really good at noticing other good things about other people. Even people you don't even know that well. Now, here's the key part. We're going to turn this around to this last week. And I want you to understand that most people are just like you. They're just like you. They too also recognize that someone is a basically good person. See, they realize that too. And guess what? If you're in their life, they recognize that you too, you are also a basically good person. So you're following what I'm saying? First, we recognize two people in our life, and we learned, reflecting on this, that it's not hard to do, to think of that. Conversely, if they were to do it, they would be probably including you in, or other people with whom they've come into contact, and that would eventually include you. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to let it sink in that what you feel about others, they really feel about you. Okay? So the good nature that you see in others, they also, if they're like you, see that in you. Okay? So it doesn't mean the two people that you thought of do as much. Maybe but they actually do. I would say that if they got to know you, they would. Now, they feel it, and here's a logical thing I like. They feel it because they see it. This is not you hiding all and just presenting a bunch of negative stuff around them. You're not tricking or fooling them, and they know that you have flaws and faults, but that doesn't really matter. The key is that the people in your life still think that you are basically a good person, okay? Now, here's the big challenge, and I'm almost done with this. I just look at my watch as if I'm not the host of the show, and I can continue. I could just continue, but YouTube kind of likes a little bit of a shorter thing. And so anyway, here's the next thing. Can you see yourself the way others see you? Okay. Can you do that? If they can do it, and you can do it toward them, why can't you do it toward yourself? We're questioning that, right? It's not like you're bad if you can't. It's just, what is the reason we don't? And for many people, this is quite hard to do, because seeing others as good people seems straightforward and easy. And you may recognize intellectually that others see you and your good intentions and warm heart as well. You understand that, right? That's intellectually not hard to understand. But when it comes to actually seeing yourself this way, okay, it's very difficult, oddly enough. It can feel almost like forbidden, a taboo of a sort. Not something that we should be doing, But why not is the question. If it's all right to see the basic goodness in others, then wouldn't it be all right for us to see the basic goodness in ourselves? Why is it not all right to recognize it and stand up for yourself? Why not? As you go through your day, this is your practice part. You want to try to register when others see you as being good, your capacity, your capability, your effort, your smile, your caring attitude. You want to notice those things, even in the small passing moments, actually, especially in the small passing moments. You want to see the good qualities. You want to see your own good qualities as much as you could or can when you see them in others. Okay, so maybe the next time you start to notice in other people, go look in the mirror and then count yourself as one of those people. And a couple more things to help you. It would be helpful for you to actually label them in your mind, these people who you see the good in, as, being friendly, skillful, people that admit mistakes, maybe see another person's action, they say, hey, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Maybe that's labeled as, giving love, right? Be aware of the integrity and the lovingness deep inside you, even if they're not always apparent or expressed. Let a sense of confidence in your inherent value grow and fill your mind. And try to let this sink in. Try to do this again and again. And knowing that your heart and you are a basically good person is actually true. No matter what happens, ups and downs, stress, love, fights, losses, you want to take comfort and strength in this knowledge. This is true. It's knowledge that you are a good person. And the more we can seize upon these experiences, these positive experiences where we can see others acting good, the more we can think of how we are good. Okay? I would love to talk more, but I think I've spoken a lot. One of these days, I'm going to do a question and answer session. I hope to see you next week. I probably will be doing something on confidence again, but with a twist. And then after that, I'm thinking of resilience. I love that word, resilience. Yeah. I hope all of you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time, Thursday night, 8 p.m., 8 to 8:30. And please subscribe. All right? Thank you so much. Peace out. I have to find my exit now.